All right, hello everyone. So this is a lesson that I had today. It's fresh in my mind, and I wanted to share it with you guys because I found that the format of this lesson was very typical of a junior high class. So if you're curious what a typical junior high class looks like, it's basically this. And okay, so the first thing I want to tell you is that my teacher gave me a lesson plan. Now, it's not really common for teachers to do this. Usually we just sit down and then I'll write down what we're doing, but this teacher is very organized. So he has our lesson times and our periods that we're teaching together and the days, and then he has, so the first part is a greeting, and this is where we say, "Good morning, everyone. What day is it today? What's today's date? How is the weather? How are you?" kind of thing. And then once they've answered all that, then they can sit down. And then the first thing he does, this is like a thing that he does every class, and it's daily work, and then the kanji here is eikaiwa make it. So basically, this is what every student has, and what they do is they partner up and they ask each other these questions. And then I guess they fill out this, so they can like track how much time it takes them to say these things. So it looks like they do this script for about 10 times, and then they must go to a new script or something. I'm not too sure, I didn't ask about that, but this takes about 5 minutes, so 2 minutes to prepare, get ready, and then 3 minutes total time to actually do the activity. So what this teacher does is he sets the timer on the computer, and then it counts down from 3 minutes, and then the kids have to ask one another, so what day is it today? It's whatever, and then they just do that. And they switch roles. So the first person who asks questions, then the first time they ask questions, the second time they'll answer questions. And this is a really good warm-up activity. So this is really a warm-up. And it's grammar that has to do with the textbook, so it's super relevant and stuff. Yeah, and the kids actually did really good with this. Some of them used the script, like some of them read it, because they had to read it, and then some of them knew it off by heart. So it's a really good practice for them to practice that. And then the next thing we had was new words test. So my teacher compiled a whole bunch of the new vocabulary, which is on this sheet here, and he crossed out some, so those ones I couldn't use, but he had me choose 10 words to tell the students for their spelling test. And so I chose the words that I figured would be the most common that they would hear if they went abroad. So the format of this, how we did this, was the students cleared off their desks, and then they each got this new words short test worksheet. And what they did was they would sit quietly, and then I would say these words one at a time. So the number one I have here is fun. So I would say fun, and then I would use a simple sentence. It is fun to play soccer, or something. And then I would repeat it, and then I'd go to the next one. The next one I have is car. So I wanted to start them with the easy words and then work their way up to the more difficult words. And the very last word here is end. And I would say, this is the end of the test. And then, so as I said the words, the students would fill it out here in English and then here in Japanese. And after we're done all the words, then the teacher would write on the whiteboard or blackboard number 1 to 10, and then one by one I would spell the English word and have students correct each other's worksheets. So what they would do is they would switch with a partner, they would switch their worksheets, and then they would mark each other's worksheets. So after I wrote down all the English words for them to check, the teacher, my JTE, would write the Japanese version, and then they can correct the Japanese words if they were able to translate it properly or not. And then they would have a score out of, it was actually out of 20, because there's 1 point here and then 1 point here. Okay, so after the spelling test, we did, okay, so after the spelling test, we had true or false about school in Canada. This was really cool. So before this lesson, I met with the teacher and he wanted to somehow have an activity where we can talk about school culture in Canada, because the grammar point had to do with sharing culture. And I told him about a lesson that I did before where it was a true or false quiz, a PowerPoint quiz, where the students each got a red card and a green card. And then I would show, for example, it's spring in Canada. So right now it's spring in Canada, where it's spring in Japan. And the students would have to choose if it was true or false, and then they would put, or they would grab their card, whatever they thought it was, and then raise it. And then I would show the answer. It would be true. It's spring in Canada. So in places like Australia, where the weather is completely swapped, you can really like play with the students by telling them that it's false if it's winter in Japan, and then be like, oh, it's summer in Australia. The kids would be like, what? So anyways, okay. So how we did this though was we gave each student a true-false worksheet. So the way that we did this, the first step is I would show the slide. So for example, it's 13 hours difference in Canada. True or false? So in Canada, really it's relative to where I'm from, which is the Rocky Mountains, so standard mountain time, I think. And it is 13 hours difference. And then the kids had to vote true or false, so they'd raise their card. And then, like, if they didn't understand this question or this statement, then the teacher would explain it in Japanese. And then the next slide. So true, if it's 10 a.m. in Japan, it's 19 p.m. in Canada, or 7 p.m. in Canada. And then this is just a picture to show the different time zones. And so what they would do is they'd go to their worksheet and they would circle true. Oh, and for spring they would circle true. So I'm just going to show you these other slides here that correlate with the rest of this worksheet. So, okay, school in Canada. School starts in September and ends in June. This is true. School in Japan starts in April and ends in March. So the kids are just like, ooh, that's interesting. Okay, there are 3 school types. So again, this is in particular to where I'm from. So there's public, Catholic, and private. And this is true. Students wear school uniform. And I put false because in most cases where I'm from, the students do not wear school uniforms. Students cannot wear jewelry and dye their hair. So I put false because, again, where I'm from, it's very common for students to dye their hair and have jewelry. Like the thing, when I say dye their hair, I mean even natural colors, because here in Japan, students are not allowed to dye their hair at all. Okay, next. Students can listen to music in some classes, and I put true because during free time, so depending on the teacher, you can listen to music, where here in Japan, you cannot listen to music at all during any class in junior high or any time. Students change classrooms and teachers stay in one classroom. And this is true. So in Japan, the teachers are the ones who change classrooms in junior high. And I found out in high school, it's the same as in Canada. So in high school, the students move classrooms, which is really neat. Students can sleep in class. False. Bad students are kicked out of the classroom. True. So in Japan, they have this policy where you can't really kick kids out anymore, I think, from what I've heard in the Kyoto system. They've got different ways of dealing with behavioral or bad students. There is a sports day in Canada. I put false because the kind of sports day that they have here in Japan is not anything that I've experienced. Okay. Sorry, my phone ran out of space, so I had to like make room. Okay, so this is the next slide. Students go to McDonald's for lunch. True or false? And I put it as true because even in junior high, in Japan, students are not allowed to leave the school, and there are some food items that they cannot eat. They cannot eat things like ramen and fast food. They usually eat bentos that were prepared at home, or like I don't even think they can eat konbini food, like convenience store food. So it's very, very strict still. But in Canada, students can eat McDonald's for lunch, and they can go out to a convenience store and eat whatever, right? So I put this as true. Next is summer vacation is 2.5 months long, and I put this as true. And as soon as the Japanese students hear this, they're like, what? Because here in Japan, summer vacation is literally like maybe 3 weeks and maybe a month, if they're lucky, I think. Or maybe it's a month. No, it's probably a month. But yeah, so it's a long vacation that kids get back home. Okay, students have summer homework, true or false? And this is false. And as soon as the Japanese kids see this, they're like, what? They're so lucky in Canada and America and everywhere. And I was like, yeah, because in Japan, it's still in the middle of the school year for summer. Like, summer is in the middle of the school year. So that's why they've got homework. But in Canada, it's between school years. So that's why they don't have the summer homework in Canada. So, okay, so that was it for the worksheet. So as we went on, the kids would just circle true or false, whatever it was. And so this is like a culture exchange kind of thing. And then I had bonus questions. So students have no club activities and school sports on Saturday and Sunday. And here in Japan, Saturday is still really considered like a school day, and Sunday is even considered kind of a school day. But on these days, it's usually only like club events that happen. I know a lot of the teachers I talk to in junior high, they have to come in on Saturday and sometimes on Sunday too. So teachers in Japan might have a 7-day work week, which is pretty nuts. But in Canada, Saturday and Sunday, there is no school. There's nothing, like, unless it's literally a festival or something happening, Saturday and Sunday is for the students. So so I put true. And so kids can like stay home, they can do whatever, they can relax. Okay, students can eat from the school vending machine. This is true. So this is super unheard of in junior highs in Japan. Even high school, like maybe high school has vending machines. I think high school has way more freedom for students here in Japan, but in Canada, I do remember a vending machine in my junior high school. We did have chocolate and chips and stuff, so. Okay, and the last bonus is students have to clean their classroom every day. True or false? In Japan, the kids have to clean the classroom, they have to clean the school, and they have to clean the outside of the school. In Canada, they do not. This is false. There is a janitor that comes in and cleans up the entire school. And when the kids hear this, they're like, oh, they're so lucky, they're so lucky. It's really interesting to see the differences between the school systems. So I'm actually, I think I want to make a video specifically about the differences in the school systems. I think I might do that. And then that was it, finished. So yeah, in the end, usually after we got to the bonus questions, it would be about time for the school bell to ring. So that would be it for the class. Yeah, so that's basically our lesson plan. So at the very end, we would have our exit greeting. So we would say, thank you everyone, you did a wonderful job, and see you next time. And then the kids would say, thank you, see you next time, and then that would be it. So yes, that was my junior high lesson from today. And I found that this is like a typical format. So you, basically you'll have your greeting, you might have some grunge work that the kids have to do that follow the textbook or the lessons, or grammar drill, skill drill, skill, you know what I mean. And then after it's usually open for the ALT to kind of do an activity or a game that follows the grammar point or culture exchange. It really depends on the teacher that you work with. In some classes, I've had my part of the class in the beginning, and then the teacher would have their part in the end. Or it would be like this, where it's mostly the teacher's plan in the beginning and then our collaboration or my plan at the end. So this is like your typical junior high class this is my typical junior high class that I've experienced. It could be different for other people, but anyways, thank you very much for watching, and I hope this helped. If there's anything that you'd like to know, let me know. I'd love to give you all the juicy information. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!